Today on Real Talk with Coach Morton and friends, I have a ton of awards. Four-time Southern Conference MVP, Western Carolina. Five-time Southern Conference team champion. Four-time NCAA championship competitor. Seven-time NCAA all first round. 32-time all-time Southern Conference. Seven-time NCAA championships qualifier. He was actually last year's 2019 runner-up at the U.S. Indoor Championships in the 300, 2015 U.S. Indoor Champion in the 300, World Indoor Gold in the 4x4, and Olympic Silver in the 4x4 in 2012. Manteo Mitchell, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm just making sure I didn't mess up on none of that. So
Man,
that's a
I
career,
don't even care
man.
about that stuff, man. I don't.
But
I leave that to the historians.
but let's get started, man. Like I've watched you since you got to Western Carolina. Talk to us about your background. Like, how'd you get started in the sport?
Yeah, so way before Western Carolina came about, I grew up in a real small town of Mooresboro, North Carolina, but I was raised in and around Shelby, North Carolina, which is in Cleveland County, and we're known for producing some pretty high-quality athletes in football, basketball. You know, David Thompson and many others, Brandon Spikes, Travis Padgett, another teammate of mine, and then just little old me. So I started actually playing basketball, then got into football, and then my senior year, junior year, it was kind of like you need to run track to get ready for senior year of football. So I didn't really take it serious. We never warmed up, just went out there and we were just good enough to win. And then senior year came around, and that's when my coach really started, pushing. Hey, you need to try to do this, and you'd be really good at it. And then that's when I started like taking it serious. So I would say, I ran in middle school. It was more of a social aspect. Probably I think seventh grade only. That was it. Was on the 4x1 there, didn't really like that. Went on to football, loved that. And then I think, my senior year is when it kind of became, a flourishing thing. And then, of course, going on to Western to do all that stuff is kind of how it all started.
So you did it in middle school, and then did you not do it again until like your junior year, or did you
Pretty
just?
much, yeah.
Oh wow.
It's really weird when people, ask about that because they don't really, at this level, they feel like if you're at this elite level or whatever elite means to most people, or if you're an Olympic caliber athlete, that you've been doing it all your life. And for most people, it is like that. But for me, I'm considered one of the late bloomers in the sport because I didn't grow up in the sport. I came into it late. I remember watching the Olympic Games and stuff like that, but for me, it was just like, oh, that's cool. I didn't really know about it until, I started running post collegiately or got into college and ran against these guys that I saw on TV. And I was like, yeah, I want to be like that. And, that's kind of how it started like growing.
Nice. Now, in this day and age where a lot of high school athletes are a lot of athletes, not all of them, but a lot of athletes have become consumed with the name, the big school name, and not always. I've just, as a coach on the inside, I've seen athletes, get in over their heads and choose the wrong school. I mean, it sounds like you made the right choice. What made you choose Western Carolina?
Honestly, there's a little story behind that. So being where I'm from, we didn't have any like legit tracks. We had like asphalt, like the black top, no rubberized tracks. So we would run and we'd have sparks coming off our spikes. And I'm like, why are we even running the spikes on this asphalt? So it just so happened that our regional track meet was at Western Carolina University my senior year. So we went there and clearly we ran super fast and everything because we'd never been on rubber tracks. Some of the guys on my team, they ran summer track. I didn't. I never ran summer track. So they'd been familiar with it, but this was my first, occurrence and time, like actually being on a rubber track. And I was like, man, my legs don't hurt after I finished. This is great. I just ran a half second faster than I've ever ran in a race. And we just broke all the state and regional records in one day. And then Darius Bryson was there. He was a grad assistant coach, who's now my fraternity brother. And then Danny was there. And they came up to me, and of course, you know, the kids were volunteering, or excuse me, the athletes there for Western were volunteering with the meet.
Mm.
And they came up to me and were like, "Hey man, we'd love to have you on the team, blah, blah, blah," and all this good stuff. And I was like, "That's cool, but I mean, I'm gonna weigh my options," because I had a lot of offers for football. And then, you know, I was involved in music. So I knew Western had this music department. And so I was like, you know what, I could kind of kill two birds with one stone and run track here and do music. So that's really ultimately why I chose the program. And then Danny came to me and he said, you know, I really feel like you can change the atmosphere here. And I feel like the sky's the limit for you. And he was the first coach that really like invested in me fully. Um, and I know it was a small school, but for me, I'm very family oriented. So being only 2 hours away, I was like, okay, this is good. My family can see me. I can go home if I need to because I'm very, very involved, highly involved with my family at that time and still now. So it kind of was just like perfect for me. And I feel like you said, some people get in over their heads, like trying to just go to the big name schools. And there's nothing against the big name schools. But sometimes the school you need is right around the corner, and it may be the best fit for you, as opposed to the best fit that looks like it's for you. But actually being there and experiencing it, I'm glad I made the decision to go to Western Carolina because, I mean, once I got there, I mean, I dropped what 2.5 seconds in the 400, and then how many ever, excuse me, seconds in the 200, and it was just crazy because the bigger schools started coming after me after that, and I was like, no, I'm here, like it's too late, you know what I'm saying? So but yeah, commitment. I feel like if someone invests in you, you owe it to them to commit to that promise because technically it's a contract you sign. And I'm not gonna, you know, null and void my contract just because, oh, I'm doing good now. I got better because I was there. So there's no point in me leaving.
And that's very, you know, that's very I'm not gonna call it old school. That's not the norm, I'd say today.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you get so many kids that get somewhere, they improve, and then they want to go to greener pastures. And you know, I can appreciate that. I'm from that era before the transfer portal. I think that kind of, you know, opened up that can of worms. So
Right.
you know, that I just want to hear. I would like for young athletes to hear that. You know, like you can go to a smaller school and have success. And like I said, I mean, you know, the bigger schools obviously have success there, but you can go to smaller schools and have plenty of success.
Right.
Now, obviously, I know Danny. For those that don't know Danny, your coach, how would you describe your training?
Whew. My training is tough. And you know, I'm not the type of person that boasts or brags or talks about himself like that because that's just not me. But if I had to, I would say I probably work harder than anyone else in my event. And it's just once I dial it in and I know I'm getting older and all this stuff, I know all the chatter and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like once we're dialed in, I'm unstoppable. And I know it's because of programming, it's because of taking care of your body, it's because of the man is just like he's smart. And there's really smart coaches out there that don't get like yourself and many others that don't get the appreciation and the accolades that they should get just because they're not at this big name school or they're not a head coach under someone or an assistant coach under someone else. I feel like if you can take an athlete and improve them even by a tenth of a second, you're doing your job.
Mm-hmm.
If you can take someone like me who ran close to 50 seconds in high school in 1.5 years, and in 1 year drop down to 47:20, like why that's good coaching. That's great coaching. So I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of coaches out there that are just like that. And my coach is exactly like me. And I think that's kind of how I got that embedded in me. Like we don't care about those medals and honors. We don't care about that because we're always like, what's next? What can we do next?
Mm-hmm.
If that stuff comes, that's great. If the money comes, that's great. If the success comes, that's all we care about. It's just, you know, minute improvements that eventually lead to an end goal, which for 2012 it was to make the games, and we did that.
Yeah.
You know, so just little things like that I think are often overlooked in our sport. And you can thank social media and you know that quick fix for all of that. I think that's how athletes time and time again look at those things, and it's like what can I do to be better? Oh, let me go to the world's greatest coach and get into the world's greatest program because someone else had success there. It doesn't mean that you're going to have success there. You know what I'm saying? You really need to just dial in like what works for you.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything, like I train with just my coach. Like I don't train with anyone else. And there's nothing against other groups. I've trained with other groups before when I've been away for a couple weeks or something like that. And it's amazing. Having that atmosphere is great. And being like you're in a race all the time is great. But for me, it's like I look at it, I have my lane, I have my opportunity. It's up to me to do something in that lane to achieve the opportunity at the highest capacity. So that's kind of how I look at it.
That's a great mindset, because you tend to get. I have to remind my kids. A lot of them are from very small schools, and I have to remind them this is we're a team. Don't get me wrong, but this is an individual sport, and when the gun goes off, there's nothing your teammate can do to help you. So you got to be, I guess, self-sufficient and able to get this done on your own. So I think that requires a really tough mindset. What would you say is the most important aspect of your training? Is it the speed work, the strength work? I know Danny's big on strength work.
Right. For me, I think now, I ain't trying to tell everybody secrets, but it matter as long as you're working hard, you can achieve it. But I know in the past, we were definitely a long to short type program. And really not even long to short, it's long to medium. And you mix in a little bit of speed work in there. So I think I've mastered the whole strength part. And now I think for me personally, being a 400 runner that can actually run a decent 200, I have to use that to my advantage. And that's what we're going to hone in on now, is just working on that speed. Just use that speed to get around the track. So I think, it's gonna be nice. And I really believe that things are gonna drastically change in my career path for the next 1-2 years, because of that. Because like I said, I've been pro since 2012 technically. An injury in my first 3 months of being considered pro, I have an injury that drastically changes my whole career, and I have to deal with nagging injuries for years after that. And then mentally, with everything that happened, I've had ups and I've had downs, but eventually I'm still in the pack somewhere. So we've mastered it to the point where, okay, look, we know what you're really, really good at. We've already fixed what you were really, really bad at. So now if we just own those crafts, like the sky's the limit. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Now you talk about 2012. That was a huge year for you. We just talked about indoor, what you did indoor on the relay. Talk to us about the 2012 season and the events leading up to London 2012. Explain what happened on that 4x4 in London, but kind of how things led up to it.
Okay, yeah. So I knew. So in 2011, I believe I went over to Europe just to get a taste of it, just to see. My grandfather was my first sponsor. He gave me some money to get over to Europe. I used one of my grants from to get me over to Europe, and I got a taste of that, and I was like, nah, I got to come back better than this. So I came back home. I had a couple wins, had a couple losses. I came back home, but I experienced it on my own just to see what it was like. And I was like, I'm determined in 2012, I'm gonna be better than I was before I went over there. So I knew that the way that we were training and the way that I was being coached and the people that I had on my team, I knew that 2000 was gonna be a great year before it even started, because I planned for it to be that way. Indoors, we went over to Turkey. I ran a great leg over there on the third leg and ended up putting our team in position to win. Came back, and then a week and a half later, I dropped 45 something. I think 45-1 or something like that in my first race in lane 7 at Auburn. And I knew then that, okay, yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to be a good year. And my boy Pickett called. He was like, dog, you can't be doing that. It's too early. I was like, but I felt good. And this was off only a couple days of training, because we came back from Turkey, had a couple of days off, and then had like maybe a week of training, and then came back out and did that because I just tried and I was like, okay, I need to run. So I knew then that it was going to be a great year. And then, you know, we trained for the trials. Everything went well. Ended up finishing 5th there. A heartfelt 5th. I was in 3rd coming to the last 10 meters. And then, you know, I just fell apart. I was winning that race for 330 meters. Then I got passed by LaShawn and then Tony. And I was like, okay, I'm in 3rd. I'm good. I'm going to just sit right here. And the monkey was on my back. The piano was on my back because I'd never ran that fast before, ever. So, but it was a good experience. I learned a lot from that loss. Like I learned probably the most I've ever learned in a race from that loss. And, you know, went over to London, was given the opportunity to run the opening leg for the men's 4x4 team, something I, you know, never thought would ever come true until I actually started believing in it. And then, you know, gun goes off and I get the 200 meters, leg feels weird. I hear a snap, feel a snap, and then, you know, the rest is history. I just decided to, you know, keep running as opposed to just sitting there and just ending my career and ending that race. And it wasn't for me per se. It was for those guys that were waiting for me to come back. So there were 3 guys waiting for me to bring that baton around. And I knew that as long as I got back around, no matter how slow or how fast, I knew them 3 guys behind me were going to do their job. And we ended up running the fastest time in Olympic prelim history. And that was with my 45-7 split with a broken leg at 200 meters.
Well, let me, because you're going to have people listening to this that, you know, that are just supportive of this podcast that don't know a lot about track. 200 meters is halfway around the track for anybody that does not know. So you got another curve and a straightaway. Got another half a lap to go, and you ran that with a broken leg.
Yeah.
In the Olympics.
Yeah. And that just goes back to like my upbringing, like being mentally strong. Like I've always preached this, like you can have the fastest athlete in the world, the strongest athlete in the world, the most finely tuned instrument in the world. But if you don't have this right here, right, none of that even matters, because you can show up, you can run 42-second pace in practice. But if you go out there and you see somebody that looks faster than you or looks stronger than you, or if your mind is not in the right place to put you to be successful, you're not going to be successful. No matter how much training you have under your belt, no matter how much tuning you've been doing, it doesn't matter. If you don't have in between the ears, I think Coach Brooks Johnson told me that. He taught me that so many years ago. If you don't have what's between the ears ready, and it doesn't matter what you do in them weeks of practice, doesn't matter at all. So I really stuck with that. And I think that's why I was able to get around that track, and just knowing that, you know, the adrenaline was pumping. Here I am at the Olympic Games. My mom and my aunt are in the stands. I didn't fly them all the way over here to watch me just give up. And number 2, most importantly, those teammates and the country that I was doing this for, like, it was bigger than me. I had USA on my chest. Like, that means a lot to me. Despite everything that's going on right now, like that means a lot to me, to be able to represent my country to a capacity of where my country is depending on me to do the impossible. And so I did it.
Now, a lot of people get their, get their recognition or just due off of the successes they have at the Olympics. Obviously, that was a success in a different way.
Right.
Obviously, you know, you probably wish that you could have been healthy and finished that race, you know, healthy, but, you know, I'm assuming that it led to some things. So what has things been like since that day?
Well, instantly the next, you know, a lot of people didn't know. They just thought I ran slow. 45-7, I mean, honestly, that's slow, especially at that time. That's not that slow, but we're held to a higher standard. So I understand that. I respect that. Even the commentators, Otto Bolden, all those guys, you know, when you're live on the track, you don't know what's going on. No one knew what was going on but me. And even after the race, you know, I didn't take away from that moment, because, again, it wasn't just me in that race. It was 3 other guys. It was their moment as well. So I didn't even take away from that. Reporters asked what was wrong. They saw me limping. I was like, I'm good. I'll be all right. Like, my foot just hurts. I'm good. I knew what was wrong. But then shortly after, even standing there watching those 3 guys with a broken leg, watching those guys run, going through media, all this stuff, I didn't get to the infirmary and the hospital in the village until an hour after that. So just realizing like the moment, I just didn't want to take away from that. But things changed instantly when people found out. Obviously, we were on a delay from where you guys were, so it was like 6 hours or 5 hours ahead of where you guys were, ahead. So a lot of people didn't realize what happened or know what happened until it went in the press the next day. So a lot of people woke up and were like, "Whoa, he did what?" Blah blah blah. So overnight, I became like an international icon, and I wasn't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just a little dude from Shelby, North Carolina, that went to one of the smallest schools in the world, that did some cool things, made a team, and I was just there just to participate in whatever capacity I was held to do. And overnight, it's like everybody coming up to you like, "Oh, I want to get a picture with you. You're our hero. You're an international icon, blah, blah, blah." And that was a lot for me because at that time I wasn't fond of being in front of people, you know what I'm saying? Like having that platform, but I was given a platform to be something for someone who can't be what they wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the light that was shining for someone else that lights was dull. So I took that, and it took a while to like grasp that concept that, hey, you're no longer doing this for you. You're doing it for a whole lot more people than yourself. So it opened up a lot of doors, both on and off the track, for motivational speaking. So now I travel the world doing that, and I have been since then. Camps and talking to businesses and corporations on how to be a team, how to be a leader, and all those different aspects. So it really boosted me off the track more than it even did on the track, honestly. And I'm blessed to have that position, and to be in that position to use something that could have been completely negative as a positive. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I think that's what makes that unique is that, I guess, negative experience, so-called, has
Right.
flipped and, afforded you so many opportunities, because I didn't know what was going on when I watched it. And I'm like, that's not, I've watched you for years, and I'm like, something's going on. I know he
Yeah.
didn't just get out there and do that.
Yeah.
When it started coming out, I was just like, goodness gracious, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everybody else had the same reaction, and now you're using your platform for positive. Not speaking on your platform, you've always been an advocate for drug-free competition. What is going on with all these missed drug tests? And I mean, I don't know. I don't have a professional sprinter or runner. I've never been one. How hard is it to be where you need to be as far as getting those drug tests in?
Um, I'm gonna give you a perspective from someone in the sport who still is participating in drug testing, and I'm gonna give you a perspective from someone who serves on almost like a board type, event leader type perspective. So from the athlete perspective, for those who don't know, the testing is random. However, when you go through USADA, which is U.S. Anti-Doping Association, you have WADA, World Anti-Doping Association, then you have the Athletics Integrity Unit, which is a separate entity. But they all do the same thing. They test you. They're making sure that athletes are being respectful of the sport and not taking shortcuts. That is great. I respect that, and I wholeheartedly advocate for that because I feel like it should be a level playing ground. Some people go above and beyond those parameters that are set, and some people get caught and some people don't. Now, when it comes to being available for a test, so you've been hearing about, a lot of people have been hearing about the whereabouts. What that is, for people who don't understand, whereabouts are literally what they say. Whereabout are you? Like, where are you in a typical day? So my testing window, you can select 1 hour out of the day that you can be tested in. And a tester can come during that hour, and you are supposed to provide a test, a sample. It could be blood, it could be urine, it could be both. You don't know that until they get there and they tell you. If you miss a whereabout, that counts as a whereabout. 3 of those constitutes a suspension or an infraction, so to say. So it's like if you don't turn in your homework, you get docked. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have some level of responsibility as an athlete, especially if you're being tested. You're probably a professional athlete, so you're held to a higher standard. For me personally, I feel like no one should miss tests. Now there are situations you may be somewhere and it's, say your time is 6 to 7, like my time is, and the tester decides to come at 6:40, but I have somewhere to be at 7 and it takes me 20 minutes. I may not be there. However, it's my responsibility to know that between that hour, I am capable of being there because that's what I said. So sometimes there's mishaps. I can only speak for myself, you know what I'm saying? And I know that things do come up, things do arise, and sometimes you don't have the ability to be in two places at one time. However, I feel like if you're a professional athlete and you're missing tests, you're solely responsible for that because this is what you signed up for. You didn't just sign up to run track and field. You signed up to be available for a test. You signed up to uphold the integrity of not only USA track and field if you're a US athlete, but the integrity of yourself and your fellow colleagues and athletes for being responsible and being drug free. So, but I say that to say just because you miss a test does not mean that you're guilty of taking drugs. Until you come out with a positive test, that's what the media portrays wrongly about these athletes. Just because you miss a test does not mean that you're positive. I just want everybody to be aware of that. And things do happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean that these testers are upholding their standard as well. So if there's anybody out there watching this, I challenge these testers to uphold their standard as well. Because if you're saying you're reporting to someone, you didn't call them and you didn't knock on the door appropriately or ring the doorbell, you're at fault. So I say that, it's a level playing field. We need to all be fair here.
Yeah. Yeah. Every side has a story. So
Right.
it's fair I think it's important to be fair, and nobody's guilty until proven guilty. I mean, until the
Right.
innocent until proven guilty. So I just wanted to get insight on that because of all the stuff that's going on right now.
Right.
To change the pace a little bit, though, I sent you this question so you can have time to think about it. I see a lot of all-time lists going on with other shows. Who's your all-time 4x4 on the men's side?
Oh man. It's I came into the sport, believe it or not, just 2012. That was a totally different era than it is now, honestly. So I came into the sport like in LaShawn and Jeremy and Quincy Watts. Quincy was before time, obviously, but these guys were guys that Michael Johnson, obviously. These guys were like heavy hitters. Like that was the like benchmark. You know what I'm saying? That's what you want to run like. You want to run like all four of them guys. That's who you want to be like. So to me, it's hard to put a team together without like mixing it up a little bit. So I have a few teams. So I give you one team in no particular order: Quincy Watts, Michael Johnson, LaShawn, and Jeremy in their primes. Now that's just sick. That's sick. I'm talking about in their primes. That's sick. No one's. I'm sorry, but no one's stopping that.
No
one.
No.
Not a chance. Not a chance. My new age team would be, and I'm not even putting myself in there. I mean, I'd like to be in there. I could probably go out there and run 45, and we still gonna break 256. But I would take, in no particular order, in their primes, I'll take Mike Norman, Grant Holloway, Tony McQuay,
okay,
and my boy from South Africa. I'm missing his name right now.
The world record holder?
Yes.
Oh,
Wade Van Niekerk.
Yeah.
And then you can flip that around and take Wade Norman, no particular order, Wade, Norman, Curly,
Ooh.
and what's his name? Karani James in their prime.
Yeah.
It don't matter. Any collection of any of those guys in their prime is just dumb.
Yeah.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see that. Like if we could put that together virtually and take like if you could take their best race on film and simulate it into a 4x4 against the first one, that would be dope. That would be dope to see. I'm not technically savvy like that, but if somebody's out there that's watching this that can do that, let me know because that would be
David
dope.
Pickett.
That would be dope to see that like virtually. That would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, those are some heavy hitters. I mean that the second team is there's some beasts. That first team, Merritt, Warner, Watts, and Michael Johnson. I mean, Jesus
Yeah, and
Christ.
That's the thing though. You really have to be knowledgeable of these athletes and what they run in splits because sometimes your event doesn't necessarily correlate to what your split. A lot of
Mhm.
people can run faster splits than they do in the open. Obviously, that's expected. But there are some people that have run, way faster splits than they have in the open just because they're great relay runners. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And I just think so. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So, what's the best advice you can give one of these up and coming runners that are looking to go professional?
Um, Best advice to give up and coming runners that are seeking the professional realms of things. I would say number one is make sure your heart is in it. Um, because just saying you're professional doesn't mean you're a professional athlete. Just signing the contract doesn't mean you're a professional athlete. You have to uphold a standard to be that professional athlete, both on and off the track or whatever your sport is. But right now we're talking about track. Make sure that you have your team because you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. Um, the most invested person that you should have on your team is your coach. And I feel like a lot of athletes in general and just athletes that are seeking to go to the next level, I think they shy away from that. Your coach is the one who is literally in control, minus yourself, literally in control of your career. The way that they program, the way that they teach, the way that they encourage, the way that they get on to you, like all of that has a direct and positive effect on how successful you're going to be. So that is the person that you should be the most invested in. If it isn't yourself, is your coach. That's first for me. Because without that coach, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're not going anywhere. This person is responsible for programming and making sure that you're ready when you step to the line. Everything
Mhm.
else matters as well, but nothing matters more than your coach in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people can vouch for that. And then I would say another thing would be just um, to take care of your body. Obviously, it's not just getting out there and being ready to run. You have to be ready to prepare to take your body through a lot, and to be able to recover and to come back the next day and do it again. Or if you're going through the trials, you got to do that 3 days in a row. You have to be prepared, and your body has to be finely tuned to be able to do that. But most importantly, again, the fourth thing I would say, and this will be the last thing, is making sure you're mentally prepared. So if you're training your body, don't forget to train your mind because, like I said earlier, everything that's done right here really is a direct result of what you're going to do on the track with the training that you have under your belt. So, talking to uh, a mental preparedness person or a psychologist or, a sports psychologist, just being able to be able to talk to someone that can, put you in that zone, put you in your lane and have you prepared. I think those are very important things.
Yeah, I would think the mental part is very important. I mean, I would guess that you're going to run into a lot of roadblocks or hurdles on the way to the meet itself, whether that
Right.
be training, whether that be business or whatever, logistics of getting to the track itself,
Right.
you're going to run into a lot of things. So I would think the mental part would be huge.
Right. For sure. Yeah, a lot of young athletes, are thrown into the sport. Like they sign a contract and it's like, all right, you need to go race here. But they don't know what it's like to travel to Europe and have all your bags not show up for 3 days and you got to race in 2 days. So they don't teach you that. That's not part of the instructions. You got to look outside. You got to go on YouTube and look it up for yourself. They don't teach you that kind of stuff, and that's kind of how I advocate for the athletes in that aspect of, hey, I know this sounds dumb, your uniform and your spikes or something in a little bag on the plane. Don't put it under because you never know. You can wear that same outfit every day that you travel over there in. That's fine. You're in Europe. It doesn't matter. But that uniform, you need that. So make sure you have your necessities at least in a little handbag so that way it doesn't happen. That's just one occurrence. But so many things, like you said, so many things can occur between traveling from Asheville, North Carolina to Belgium. You know what I'm saying? Like so many things can happen, but you have to be prepared for those things. And, a lot of times athletes are not, ushered into that type of atmosphere. So, yeah.
Now, future's looking bright for USA track and field. I mean, I could just rattle off the names of athletes that are their future is so bright. I mean, you named a couple: Michael Norman, Fred Curley. You talk about Noah Lyles,
Right.
Raj Benjamin. All these guys that are, they're studs. Where is Manteo Mitchell planning to be within all this competition with the upcoming Olympic year? What's your plans looking like?
I just want to be in the conversation. If I'm in the conversation, if I'm in the pack, I have a legitimate shot of making the team. I know on the outside looking in, they may look back at, recent activity and say, oh, where's he been? But that's what I want them to say. Oh, where's he been? Because trust me, we're working. We're working. So I have no doubt. I've done it before. I know what it takes to get there. I know what it's going to take to get there. So in a sense, for me, it's like, if I can put all my beans in one pot, we're going to cook. You know what I'm saying? So, I just to be part of the, to still be going 8 years later after that traumatic event, and to get through that mental process, like that was tough. And then obviously physically coming back, I've had nagging injuries since. But to be in the conversation, to make the final is technically my goal, because if I make the final, everything starts over. It's a clean slate. Now I got a lane, I got another opportunity. Now it's, what am I going to do with it? I'm ready to be here, and how am I going to make it? That's that. If I just make it to the final, I'm going to make that team. So that's how we're looking at it.
Okay. Well, that final is a whole nother world. Like you said, it's a clean slate. So some people everybody don't respond well to that. So that really is an opportunity to take advantage. So
right.
I'm excited to see, what this upcoming season holds for you. Obviously, I've been watching you since college. So, man, anything else you want to add for the sake of the track and field world?
No, I feel like we covered most of it. Yeah. Make sure y'all follow me. I'm doing some great things both on and off the track. So we're just trying to be successful, man. I think, coming to an end of the career type atmosphere for me, because I'm ready to move on to other things after this. So, yeah, I'm just enjoying it. Like if it's not fun, I feel like it's not enjoyable. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't enjoy your job, then you may need to look for another career. So I'm still enjoying it. So right now, that's my bread and butter. And I feel like, this is my other child. I mean, I have a son who's 7.5, and I'm ready to chase after him. He's been chasing after me forever. So I'm ready to, fully invest in him and chase after his dreams.
Nice. Well, let's end it at the Olympics if you can.
That's the plan.
Well, man, I appreciate you doing this, man, and good luck. Good luck on your season.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right. Yep.